Hey, welcome back to the Uncomfortable is Okay podcast. I'm your host, Chris Desmond. This is the show where we help you do the hard things that make life exciting. Now, hopefully, we're back on board with our regular schedule. Today, I've got a short strategy episode for you, which is exciting. This one is all about contrasting your perspective. So, what is it? When you begin to feel overwhelmed or feel that you're holding yourself back, adopt a different perspective. Instead of remaining so wrapped up in what it is that's overwhelming you or holding you back, adopt a completely new viewpoint. Look at another situation which is worse than yours to contrast. And any type of news outlet is going to love to splash across stories of woe, so there's no excuse for not being able to come up with something. Once you've got a scenario worse than the one that you're currently in, really try and imagine yourself in that situation. What is it that you're feeling? What are you thinking? How are you reacting? And jumping into this perspective really contrasts to your current situation and your current perspective. And all of a sudden, your current situation doesn't seem quite so bad. So where do I apply it? This strategy is best applied when you're feeling overwhelmed or frustrated or annoyed by your situation. In fact, really when you're at any point feeling like the victim and feeling like you want to give up. So when you notice you start to feel like it's not fair, you're not getting close to what it is that you're wanting to, and really that you should just give up, then apply this strategy. Take your situation, contrast it to one that's much worse than what you're going through right now. More often than not, you're going to find the ability to push through. And while this is an in-the-moment type of strategy, it's going to work well at any stage of a challenge that you're facing. You can use it before you start, if you're feeling overwhelmed with even getting going. You can use it in the middle if you're feeling stuck, or you can use it during that final push where the going is always quite hard. So this strategy in action. I was actually trying to figure out a story around the strategy when this evening just really rammed it home for me. I'd been wanting to finish off writing this tonight and recording it, but then the baby wouldn't go to sleep. I turned the oven on to defrost instead of bake, and didn't realize for ages, so dinner was late. Then the handle of the rubbish bag broke as I was taking out the trash. And sorry, Maury, it was a plastic rubbish bag. And really, I was just starting to feel like everything was against me, and then I should just throw in the towel for the night. But then I thought, hold up. I could be a podcast editor in hospital for dengue fever in Bangladesh. And boom, all of a sudden, my situation didn't really seem so bad. So here I am, after writing this episode out, sitting down and recording it. And actually, a story that I really love about the strategy is from a guy who I'm really into his content at the moment. Some of you may have heard of Gary Vaynerchuk. If you haven't, worthwhile looking him up. But people often ask him how he gets through the tough stuff. And his response is really great. And it's also a really great example of this strategy. And he says, I imagine that I wake up and one of the 11 people that I really truly care about is dead. I really get into it and feel all the feelings and experience the reactions. Then whatever difficulty that I'm going through pales in comparison. And I realize that it doesn't really matter and I can just work my way through it. So why does this work? Our thought patterns sometimes get stuck in a repetitive cycle of only looking at the negative aspects of a situation. We have a bias towards negative information, and it's why we've been successful as a species by staying away from the things that are potentially threatening to ourselves. But this focus on the negative wraps us up and we start to lose our sense of agency of the situation. All the negative wears us down and we feel that we don't have the capacity to push forwards. Imagining yourself in a much worse situation reframes this information for you. You contrast the negative in that situation to the negative in your situation, and all of a sudden, your situation seems much more insignificant. You can feel how hard it is for someone else, then your problems start to look a little bit easier. And while I was researching this, I stumbled across a really fascinating recent study that looks at how changing our perspective shows up on a functional MRI scan. So people answered questions from their own perspective or the perspective of a character, either Romeo or Juliet. And these were university-trained actors and actresses. And what they found was when answering from the perspective of the character, there was much less activation of the brain, specifically in the cortical midline network of the frontal lobe, including the dorsomedial and ventromedial prefrontal cortices. And from previous podcasts, we know that the prefrontal cortex uses a lot of energy. It can fatigue if we overstimulate it, and when it starts to fatigue, we become overwhelmed and our processing suffers for it. As well as reframing information may also give our prefrontal cortex the opportunity to recharge as we reframe this information. Go out and apply the strategy in your day-to-day life when you're getting overwhelmed. And this is one of the strategies from a book that I'm writing at the moment, Get Out of My Comfort Zone, a guide to doing hard stuff. You can head over to getoutofmycomfortzone.com, pop in your email. I'll email you through a few strategies. I'll send you updates of where the book is at with things, and when it's ready to come out, I'll hook you up with some sweet deals as well on it. Thank you so much for getting uncomfortable with me today, and I'll talk to you all next week.